Hello everyone. Hello Marco. Yes, I'm live. Sound is working, everything is working. Hello, hello. All right. Let's start. Let's finally start. I have some strange music here. Maybe I can make it a bit lower. Okay. Hello Paul. Hello, hello. How are you? How are you doing? How's your week going? MRW78. Hello, hello. How are you? I'm not planning to play Bullet. Why do you think that I'm planning to play Bullet? You can see the title of my stream. Is there anything about Bullet? My week is going well, except for my chess. Yesterday I turned down the draw offer and wound up losing. It's okay, but I know how it feels when you decline draw offer and then you lose. But that's okay. Hello, Tricassette. Well, actually, I'm back from well, I actually didn't stream just for a couple of days. I mean, the thing is that my computer was in repair, and I even didn't expect that I will get it back today. And even if I thought that even if it is fixed today, and you know I get my computer back, then I thought that I don't know how it's called. The whole system will be reinstalled, and I will need to set up everything again. But no, computer is back, and all my everything is still on my computer. I don't need to download OBS and all other things. Just these two details were replaced. I don't know what it is. So something was replaced. They've managed to find the problem and recommended to replace these two things. No idea what it is. Okay, something, and I hope that now I will have not that many. I hope that I will have no problems anymore with my computer, with my streams. I'm just afraid that there was another problem, but it was connected with my internet connection. But we'll see. All right. So since I even didn't expect to have my computer back and to stream tonight, I decided why just not to study a little bit tonight. Currently, I'm studying the course, like I'm watching videos, instructional videos on the ChessMood website, and like a week ago we even did it together on stream. ChessMood, yes, we did that together on stream, and I still need to watch 2.5 games, and I thought why not to watch one game together right now. So it's going to be kind of a study with me stream, at least the first part of this of my tonight's stream. So study with me and together with ChessMood. Let me give shout out just to ChessMood. Actually, they I think don't stream very often, but they create a lot of cool content for their website. Okay, I think that I don't need Halloween music anymore here, so I will turn off my music, and I will need to have this, and I'm going to... So this course is called In GM Grandelius Mind. And I have, as I mentioned, two and a half games. I started watching his game number 8, but I haven't finished it yet. I think I will finish it myself, but together with you, I want to see the game he played against Maxim Vashyalagraf. So let me start it from the very beginning, and we can watch it together. I have been going over the ChessMood course about saving lost positions. I started this course. Yes, this was one of the first courses I studied on ChessMood website. Yes, but I think that I haven't finished it. Yeah, I just want to say that at lunchtime I watched this game. Grandelius, he played against the Lei Tingli, Chinese chess player, and this was such a brilliant game. Especially, I mean, well, probably the beginning, the middle of the game was not that brilliant, but the end of the game was so interesting, so instructional, so really cool. Enjoyed watching it. Hello, Dirki. Hello, how are you? Now, computer is the same, but something was fixed. And as I mentioned a bit earlier, I even didn't expect to have it back today. And I was sure that I would need to set up everything again. But no, all my programs, everything is OBS, everything I need is still on my computer, so I didn't touch anything. So hello, Pizza Racer. Hello, Arise. Do you know what they did to fix the computer? They replaced these two things. They found a problem in one of those things, but they recommended to replace two of them because they say that, well, okay, there is a problem in this one, but then the problem can appear in this one. And they recommended to replace these two things. Yeah, well, so memory usually come in pairs. Yeah, probably this is the reason why yes, well, I bought two new memories. Yeah, well, let's see. Let's hope that it will work better. This is the only thing is that you remember I also have this problem with OBS. I think that this is connected with this blue screen, right? But my OBS is probably another problem, and probably a problem with internet connection provider. So I don't know, maybe not. If everything is will work properly, that will be good. All the times I have had hardware problems, it has been memory related. Rare, but it can happen. Okay, so let's see. We'll see how it's going to work. 2 or more modules of your memory should have same timings and frequency. Well, you guys, you can discuss these things. I don't understand anything. So something was replaced, and I'm actually happy that they managed to find they managed to find a problem. I was afraid that they don't find anything and say, okay, we just reinstall your C drive. The streamer is the same. The streamer is still the same, yeah. Twitch is a bit freezing for me. Oh God, I don't know what else I need to do to have a absolutely perfect stream. Sorry. Good recommendation, Dirky. Yes. Okay. All right. So let's study some chess first. And as I said, I just didn't plan. I actually didn't. I didn't plan to stream tonight. I was hoping to have one more lazy evening. I had a super late. No, it was not lazy, but I had a nice evening yesterday. I didn't do anything. I went to bed at 10 p.m. So, and I was planning to do the same tonight, but computer is back, so so I have to work. Right. Okay, I'm also happy that you are here, guys, watching my stream. So, my YouTube stream is also working. All right. Okay, so let's go.
Hello and welcome to this game, which is between me as white and Bashir Lagrave as black. This was played in the Tata Steel Masters in by Ganze in 2021. So this was a bit of a strange event. It was during the pandemic. I got an invitation actually very late because some players were not able to play. So like 2 weeks before the event I was invited. So instead of having peaceful Christmas and New Year celebration at home, I had to prepare hard for the tournament, which of course was a great pleasure, and I came there and really enjoyed myself in the top group for the first time, in the A group. And this game was played in round 5. After the rest day, I was white, I played e4, and actually preparing against Bashir Lagrave is always an interesting task, because okay, nowadays over the last 2-3 years he did not. He changed a bit, but he used to be incredibly principled and always played the same opening. So as black against d4, the Greenfield Indian, and against e4, the Sicilian Najdorf. For this game, I chose to play the Sicilian Najdorf as white. So c5, knight f3, d6, d4 takes, knight f6, knight c3, a6. This is the Najdorf Sicilian. And here I have played many moves as white. Also, I have played the Najdorf myself as black throughout my more or less entire career. But for this game and for this tournament, I had prepared the sharpest move, bishop g5. So this is what I did. My Bashir Lagrave, as mentioned, very principled player, almost always plays the same. He plays e6, f4, and queen b6. The well-known poison pawn variation, and also the main line of the bishop g5 Najdorf nowadays. This was an invention actually by Fischer in the 60s. He liked to play like this, and actually it has stood the test of time very well, and black is supposed to equalize everywhere here. But it does require quite a lot of memorization. It does require black to be very well prepared, and a small mistake could cost very much. So it's a risky line. Actually, as black, I have never played it myself. I simply believe it's too demanding, but let's say theoretically speaking, it holds up very, very well. But of course, as white, I had some ideas. So I played queen d2, the main move. Now the point for black is to take the pawn. Not so much perhaps winning a pawn, that's not the key thing, but the key thing is that while black prevents white from castling long. So if we were black in any other system in the bishop g5 Najdorf, white is able to castle long and get a nice attacking position. Well, nice in the sense that it's harmonious. Of course, black has counter chances, but at least white gets a harmonious setup. And here after queen takes b2, yes, black is losing a lot of time with the queen, but on the other hand, the white king has no nice space to hide. So that's the underlying reasoning for the poison pawn variation from black's point of view. Not so much, I would say, that they win a pawn. Here there are two main moves. It's either e5 or the move I played in the game f5. And f5 was at the time of the game quite popular. And also some new ideas. I also had some new ideas there, so I was very much looking forward to trying them. Here, the main move traditionally has been knight c6, but lately the move bishop e7 and taken over, and this is also what MVL Bashir Lagrave played against me. F takes e6, and now if black takes back with the pawn, then bishop c4, and the pawn is kind of lost. So this is quite bad. So therefore the theoretical move is bishop takes e6. And the idea is after knight takes e6, f takes e6. The difference is that now there is no longer a bishop on c8. So after bishop c4, black can play the move knight b to d7. So with the bishop here and the knight here, then white would take with the knight, and it would be a complete collapse for black. But here, taking with the bishop, what I did is a lot less threatening, because now after knight c5 the bishop has to move again. But this was all theory. I remember Bashir Lagrave previously had a game with bishop f5, which was another interesting option. But for this game I decided to surprise with the move bishop to b3.
I don't want to place this position with white pieces and also with black pieces. Looks horrible for both.
It wasn't a huge surprise because it was one of the top lines of the engine at the time, and also one of the most popular moves. So the next move came quite fast, rook c8, and the point of the move rook c8 is to, after short castle, be able to take on b3. And now if I were to be not careful and take back, for instance, with the pawn towards the center, looks logical.
Queen c5
then queen
wins the
c5
knight.
check, and queen takes c3 wins a piece. So by starting with rook c8, black makes sure that I have to take with the rook. And now after check, well, I retreated with the bishop to e3, and here queen c4. So this was the idea of MBL. If we count the material, I managed to win back this pawn on e6, so it's actually equal material. The pawn structure is, well, kind of a little bit bad for both sides, to be honest, but I think it's fair to say that my structure is a bit worse than black's structure, because I have 4 pawn islands, 1, 2, 3, 4, whereas black has only 3, 1, 2, 2 and 3, so structure a little bit better for black, but my pieces are a bit more active and I have slightly more space, so this definitely compensates for that. So I played rook f4, threatening e5 with the discovered attack against the queen, and here my preparation continued with knight h5. This was definitely the move I expected to MVL to play. Rook f2, knight f6, back again, because if not knight f6, black is not able to castle because the rook is protecting the f8 square. So knight f6 only move to prepare castle, and now I wanted to play simply the move h3, and if short castle, then take on b7, and something like queen takes e3, rook takes e7 was my preparation. Yes, it does look like quite deep preparation. We are on move 23, but it was a well-known line, and it was like pretty forcing play, so therefore the theory tends to go on for quite a while. And I had some ideas to how to play further on, and I thought white should have some pressure, although of course, as with most main lines, with correct play, eventually black is able to equalize. Otherwise they wouldn't be main lines. So another move for black here, instead of castling immediately, was the move b5, after which I wanted to play knight d5. And even here I had some ideas, and I thought it's all quite exciting. For instance, knight takes e4, queen d1 was one line, takes on f2, bishop takes. Now the idea was to play rook e3 and put pressure on the bishop, and black is not in time to escape with the king. So for instance, takes queen e1, threatening on e7, queen c1, rook e3, and black is losing the bishop in e7, although that's not the end of the game. So yeah, those were the sort of things that I was expecting to happen in the game. And now, instead, after rook f4, MVL, he understood most probably that knight h5 was the move. But he decided after a think to deviate. He was afraid of some preparation. Not sure exactly, like concretely what he was afraid of, but he wanted to deviate. He did not want me to be able to show my preparation. I have played all the previous moves pretty fast, so I looked like I was happy with what happened. So he decided to deviate with the move queen to e6. This is a move that completely took me out of my preparation. Also, of course, took him out of the preparation. But there is one big downside with the move, and that is that the queen is no longer attacking the knight on c3, so I'm able to take the pawn on b7. But this was his idea. He simply wanted the castle, and the argument was that yes, white is a pawn up, but the white structure is still pretty bad, the king is safe, and everything is like all black's pieces are decently placed, and this can be worth a pawn. The only problem is that it isn't, because black is still not generating that much activity, and my position is still relatively fine. So, for instance, I just played h3, and it's not so easy for black to generate enough counterplay. And basically, I have a pawn up.
Yeah, right now the position of white looks more or less better, plus extra pawn.
He played rook b8, trying to fight for the b file, and this is a moment where I think this is very instructive. The previous moves, I mean, it's a theoretical line, it's interesting, of course, and especially psychologically interesting between two strong players. But from this moment on, chess-wise, it becomes very interesting, let's say. Because here the question is, we are a pawn up, so what should white play? And the answer to that, I think, is very instructive. Because I think a lot of players, especially slightly less experienced players, would automatically trade rooks on b8. Because it's so tempting to trade every piece when you're a pawn up, because you know that if you reach the pawn ending, you will win. So every trade should be beneficial for the side with extra material. But my rook is much more active than black's rook, and therefore I should keep the rook. As simple as that. You shouldn't make any concession to trade pieces. I don't have anything against piece trades if they are on my terms, but in this case it would clearly be on black's terms. So instead I kept my rook. I played rook a7, keeping the rooks on the 7th rank. And yeah, actually MVL didn't find anything better than rook a8. And now I took, because now instead of the rook on the b file, open and active and nice, the rook is on the a file, completely passive. So here, I mean, I don't mind the trade as such, but I want to have the trade on my turn. So this was very nicely done by me. I'm generally not one to brag, but the point comes on the next move. Because what I just said was a typical mistake, is something I made on the next move. Because here, after some think, I decided to keep trading pieces with knight d5. Because again, for the same reasons, I thought it's very logical to trade pieces. I have an extra pawn. I want to bring the game closer to the ending. But in this specific situation, it's not so much maybe that my knight is at this moment more active than black's knight, but black's knight is a bit in the way, because this bishop is passive, and the bishop would like to go to f6, but it cannot because the knight is there. And if the knight moves, let's say to d7, then I play knight d5, and then my knight is clearly more active than black's knight. So by playing knight d5, I've solved the problem not with the black knight, but with the black bishop. And this is something that I underestimated during the game. So instead, any other move, like for instance queen d3, would have been much stronger, because now, I mean, the rook is stuck or tied to the defense of the a6 pawn, and the bishop can come to d4, and basically it doesn't matter so much. Another good move is bishop d4. Like, it's not so important exactly how to do it. The important thing is to what not to do, and what not to do is to open up for the black pieces by playing knight d5. So very, I think, instructive mistake actually by me to force trades when there was no reason to do it, when my pieces were more active. So here black MBL, he started actually by playing rook b8, activating the rook, and here I made a slight inaccuracy with c4. I could still change my mind, but I didn't. And here, actually, we both misevaluated somewhat the possibility of knight takes d5. E takes d5, queen g6. We both, of course, contemplated this and saw this. I actually thought that I have rook g4, threatening the queen, and after the queen gives a check, then king h2, and I thought I will have moves like bishop d4, the pawn on g7 will be weak, and the black king will be weak. But it turns out that black has a very strong resource here to try to remove my active rook and remove the problems of the g7 pawn. Black could here play the move h5. And if rook g3, for instance, then bishop h4. Shouldn't forget that the queen is protecting g6, so the rook has to step away from the f5, from the g file, and then these threats with bishop d4 are worth a lot less. So I think probably I'm not entirely sure about MVL, but I definitely missed this move h5, and this would have given black decent chances to hold the game. So in fact, probably it's better to simply stay with the rook on the f file immediately, not allowing the check. But then at least the bishop comes to f6, and black has some counterplay for the pawn. I mean, white is still very much in the driver's seat, extra pawn, but black has counter chances. So instead he decided to play the move bishop d8 immediately, and here well, there was an important choice as well. I think I could have played something like queen d3, simply defending the pawn on e4, but instead I chose a more concrete option with queen f2. So with the point, of course, that if he takes, then I have checkmate. But it gave black the option to play h6, which I saw. I thought I will play bishop d4. And now, actually, I had calculated a funny line, because I had calculated, of course, knight takes e4 as the main move, and I thought I had a direct...
Thank you for following, Dirky. 99.
I thought I could play rook f8 check, king h7, and now a very, very typical ID for such positions, rook h8 check.
Wait, how beautiful.
King takes h8, queen f8 check.
Yeah. Checkmate.
If the king moves, then queen takes g7 mate.
But queen g8.
And when we got a bit closer, I realized that queen g8 is possible, defending the pawn on g7, and suddenly black is the one rook up and winning.
Bishop
so, of course,
g7,
if we had reached
h7.
this point, I would not have given rook h check. That's, I mean, of course, I would have seen it. But then...
Thank you. Hello, Linux.
Actually, there is no convincing way for white, so black has simply won back the pawn. And well, I probably keep pressure because I have the more active pieces, but definitely this is what black should have done. So I can only wish that, or hope, let's say, that if black did indeed play h6, I would have seen what was wrong with my previous calculation and played a move to defend the pawn in e4. After which I'm still, of course, much better. But I don't know if I should say luckily, or at least my MVL did not play h6. He played knight d7, after which things became a little bit more simple, because now I could play bishop d4, after which bishop f6 is stopped, and there are no clear ways for black to try to get out. Bishop g5 was tried, but after rook f5. Now, apart from the extra pawn, I'm also much more active than black. So, for instance, if h6, I can simply push him back with h4, and if the bishop has to retreat to d8, it's simply a bit too sad. I can play moves like queen g3, and I don't believe that black will survive for long. So MVL tried bishop h6, and here, I mean, there are a couple of different ways to do it. I actually quite like my solution. I played a move that if let's say a student of mine would have done it, I would have been very happy to see it, because I think it's a nice way to handle such situations. So which move would you have played as white here? So,
which move to make with white pieces? would have to think for a long time here. Oh yeah. At the moment I have zero ideas. Pawn is hanging or not hanging on e4? Probably probably hanging. Rook f7, rook f7. Wait a second, rook f7, queen takes f7, no? Maybe queen... Maybe queen h4, but I just don't know exactly. Actually, queen h4. No, this is not working. I saw that queen h4 with an idea to play knight e7 check, king h8, and then queen takes h6 because pawn cannot take our queen, but queen is protecting h6 square. Queen g3, queen g3. You think queen g3? I'm thinking about queen h4, but let's see.
I mean, there are many decent moves. It's definitely a stylistic preference, but I played the move king h2. Stepping out of rook b1 check, just asking black what's next, keeping full control, and then see later on how to improve the situation. So very typical, and this is, I think, what in the old books would be called good technique. So rook c8 was tried by MBL, but now queen g3, now there are no tricks, and everything works together. So, for instance, if black now takes on c4, I have the move queen b3, and if the rook moves, if it moves anywhere, then for instance to d4, I have knight e7 check, discovered attack, after which I pick up the queen. So, and this doesn't work at all for black. He tried g6, but then instead of moving the rook, I had an even better way to do it. I played queen to h4, hitting the bishop. Now, if black takes on f5, then I mean I have actually numerous ways to do it, but the simplest is simply the recapture. If black captures, there is a fork on e7, but actually if black doesn't capture, there is also a fork, and additionally it's not possible to keep the bishop on h6 protected. So it all just collapses for black. So after queen h4, he tried bishop f8, but now there are already numerous ways to win. I chose a very, I think, convincing way. I played the move rook f6, sacrificing the rook, but okay, if black takes, then I take with the knight, and next move I take on h7, and it all just collapses completely. For instance, king f7 takes, now only move bishop g7, and here many different ways, but I quite like the simple knight g4, threatening queen takes g7, and if rook g8, just a funny geometrical motive, knight h6, picking up the rook and winning the game. But this is definitely not the only way. There are many other ways for white to finish up the game as well. So after rook f6, MBL played queen e8. But then there was a final tactic. You can try to spot it if you want, how to win with white.
We need to do it, guys. My head is not working, my brain is not working today, but let's see. How to win with white. Well, I don't know, rook takes f8, if king takes, then queen h6, and I think that there will be checkmate somewhere there. So if knight takes, then knight f6 fork. So what if queen takes? If queen takes, then knight e7 check. Yeah, knight e7 looks like knight e7. If king f7, then if king h8, then knight takes g6. If king f7, then what? Queen takes h7. Queen takes h7. Queen takes h7. Yeah, queen takes h7 and should be winning. So it's rook f8 move, I think. Thank you for following. But let's see. Let's check.
And the way to do it, I mean, again, the position is overwhelming by this point. There are many ways, but the definitely most straightforward is to give the rook on f8. If king takes, then queen h6, followed by queen g7, will be checkmate. So black has to take with the queen, but then simply knight e7 check, king f7, and picking up the rook. After which
Queen h7 was
MBL
also
resigned.
possible.
And
okay.
I won against the world number 4, which was very good news for my tournament. So very happy memory, definitely. And I was also leading the event after this point. But the game in itself, well, I thought, first of all, I wanted to show it because it was important in my career, of course. But also, I thought this, especially these moments with the trades, are very, very instructional. Like this idea that you should always trade when you're up material and make big concessions, trade off your active pieces. That's not the way to do it. If you don't make any concession, then by all means trade. But if you have the better pieces, the more active pieces, then don't trade them from the opponent's passive pieces. Keep them on the board, increase your advantage instead of just trading. So very, very important to keep in mind practically.
All right, I suggest to watch last game in this course. I will still need to finish watching his game against Anna Zatonskih, but this will be the last game in the course, and I'll finish with this course, and then we'll find a new one. I'm sure I can't remember. I can't remember tomorrow. Okay, let's continue watching.
Hello and welcome to this game in which I am playing with the white pieces against international master Peter Lodge. This game.
Hey, Polmatch Destroyer. Yeah, computer is back. Some problem was fixed. So I'm testing my computer tonight. Yes, yeah, and hope that it will work. It's working so far. So we enjoy Nils Grandelius course. Let's continue. The Hundreds Monkey, hello. Chess is hard. Yes, I agree.
Game was played in the first round of the Reykjavik Open in 2023.
Quite fresh game.
We saw a game previously against Arjan Tari, which was played in Reykjavik Open 2013, so 10 years before. In fact, I have played the Reykjavik Open 11 times so far in my career. And finally, in 2023, I did manage to win the event eventually. It was the first time I won, so a very nice occurrence in my career. And this is one of the, I think, most interesting games actually from the event, despite being played in the first round. I started with the move knight f3. As I mentioned previously, like in open tournaments, I generally like to play a little bit slower in the first round. I want to not run into some, let's say, special preparation from my opponent. Maybe they have some favorite lines or so on. So knight f3, knight f6, g3, very calm start. b6. And here I decided to play d4 and transpose to systems more likely to appear after the move 1d4. e6, bishop g2, b7, and now the move c4, entering the Queen's Indian defense. Not that I did any particular preparation, I just thought in these kind of positions they suit me quite well. There are a lot of play, lots of plans for both sides. It should be possible to outplay a less experienced player. So
actually I can have such a type of position with black, I think. With white I usually don't play this way, but with black I can get such type of position. Okay.
Bishop d2, and now the move a5. And actually, to be honest, I was already out of book, which means I didn't know any more theory. It might sound a little bit early for move 6 from a player of my level, but it actually happens quite often, both to me and to many others. Like, if you play many different openings, sometimes you don't keep track of all the sidelines, sometimes you don't remember. Of course, I had checked it at some point in my career, but I didn't remember anything at all. But it's also the sort of position which can be played without theoretical knowledge. Like, you can just make natural moves and things will probably go quite well. So
Hi, National Master Dale. Yes, computer is fixed. Hopefully, I will not have more problems. So I have a test stream tonight. So far, everything is working well.
short castle here. A typical idea for these situations, as mentioned, I didn't know the specifics of this line, but I knew the idea in general to move the bishop from d2 in order to, let's say in the game I played bishop f4. There was also a move bishop g5, very logical as well. I was basically trying to decide between those two. In both cases the idea is the same, and that is to play the move c5 on the next move. And after black takes on c5,
a3 winning the bishop.
And suddenly this bishop on b4 is trapped. So that's a very, very common, let's say, tactical finesse or common trap in this line. And as soon as white moves the bishop, generally speaking, black has to retreat to e7, not to lose. Not to lose the bishop simply. And here there was another, let's say, typical sequence for these lines, or the queen's in general, again not in this specific position perhaps, but something I knew from other positions, and that is to play the move queen c2. And the idea of this move is, like, if I play knight c3, which is definitely the most natural move, then black could play knight e4, trading knights. Okay, not so clear what happens. Also here with the inclusion of a5, I can also consider moves like knight b5, very interesting. But still, the idea of knight e4 to trade knights, and therefore I started with the move queen to c2, with the idea after most of the moves for black, I will play knight c3, and then black can no longer play knight e4. And if black plays knight e4 immediately, then I don't play knight c3, then I play something like knight e5, for instance, opening up the long diagonal. So that doesn't quite work. And if black plays bishop e4, which is another natural way to play, then I go to c1 instead. And now my argument is that the queen is slightly better on c1. Let's say if black goes back, the queen is slightly better on c1 than on d1. Is it true? Well, this is another matter. Not so clear whether it's actually better, but I thought during the game that probably it is slightly better. I would have gone knight c3, knight e4, knight b5, similar to the previous line, and yeah, hard to say. I can say at least that one advantage was shown by Giri, which I looked up after the game, that his opponent played c6 in one game, and he played knight c3, takes, and took with the queen. So an extra option when the queen is on c1 instead of d1. But yeah, these are all small details, not so important. Instead, black played knight a6.
Small details, but still details.
Without knight e4. Also, by the way, the reason why it's important to avoid the trade of knights is that I do have a space advantage, and therefore with more space, I generally speaking want to avoid trades as much as possible, as long as it doesn't hurt my position. So here black instead played d5, trying to fight back in the center, otherwise I would very happily play e4. So d5. Now it's possible to take the pawn, but I wasn't sure because also here and also on the next move, black has the possibility knight b4, take back with the knight on d5, and I wasn't sure whether I wanted to allow that. So I started with the move knight e5, another very natural move, opening up the bishop for the bishop on g2, preventing d takes c4, and just in general very typical and very nice. Now black played the move queen c8, and how would you like to play as white is the first question, because here I really have to make up my mind.
Every time when he asks these questions, I feel scared. I don't know what to answer. He asks difficult questions.
White here. I made one move that I consider to be very natural, but in hindsight I kind of regret it. So first of all, c takes d4 and d5. It's similar to the previous move, knight b4 followed by knight takes d5, and I don't have that much. The move actually that I like in hindsight, and also I was very tempted to do it during the game, but I decided against it finally, is the move a3. And this is a move that I like very much in general, because this really plays against the main downside of black. The knight on a6 now can get completely out of the game. And if I get one more move, then I'm happily taking on d5, because then knight b4 is no longer there. the reason I didn't do it was the move c5. And I thought black would get some counterplay along the c file towards my queen, and I wasn't too sure what was going on here. But it turns out that, for instance, the move knight a4 would have been quite strong, and here we see another downside with playing the move a5, that the pawn on b6 is weak. And well, black probably has to play something passive like bishop d8, and then it kind of makes sense for white. So yeah, this would probably have been a better idea. But I wasn't too sure, and I made another move I considered quite natural, which is the move e4. Fighting back in the center, or fighting in for the center.
Exchanging light square bishop.
The center. But my opponent actually reacted quite well. He took on e4 once, knight takes e4, and now I was expecting black to trade on e4 somehow. After which I would play something like this, and my knight would go to c6, and I was very happy. But then my opponent played the move c5 immediately instead. And this I had somewhat underestimated. Because now black is fighting back in the center. Black can trade on e4 later on if he wants to, but not clear if it's necessary yet. So here black actually has quite decent chances to equalize the game. So therefore e4 was a little bit premature. And here, well, it's a typical question. For me, it was clear that what I want is a rook to d1. The question was which one. And well, as usual, as is very often the case, I chose the wrong rook. And this is a thing that happens very often in chess, that we always choose the wrong rook. And why do we do that? Well, first of all, because it's very difficult, but also, I think quite importantly, the opponent tends to play against the rook that we choose. So if we take a rook away from the king side, black plays on the king side. If we take it away from the queen side, black would probably play on the queen side. And no matter what we do, it's the wrong rook. So I wouldn't worry too much about that sort of eternal question. In this case, I do believe that rook ad1 would have been a bit stronger, but I chose the other rook.
I just want to add that when I was working with my coach, my former coach, I remember that we had a lesson when my coach was giving me different positions, and I needed to make the right choice, which rook to move. Like, for example, in this case, F or A rook, F file from F file or from A file. Yeah, quite interesting. And but as he said, you can make a decision, and it still can be not the correct decision. Pawn March Destroyer, thank you so much for gifting a sub to Fiancat Bro. Thank you so much.
Pawn March Destroyer gifted Fiancat Bro a subscription. Pawn March Destroyer gifted a tier 1 sub to Fiancat Bro. They have given 134 gift subs in the channel.
Thank you.
And the main difference, or the main reason why I think so, is that if at some point black plays knight b4, then I can retreat to b1 with the queen, and that's very harmonious with the rook on with a rook on d1. Let's say now I can kick the knight away, the queen is still protecting e4, and so on. And this is all very harmonious. Or perhaps if black plays rook e8 first, then my intention was knight g5, hitting the pawn on f7, and now with knight b4, still queen b1 makes a lot of sense. And if we go back a couple of moves with the f1 rook, then playing the move queen b1 does not make too much sense, because the rook on a1 would be locked in. Another actually idea for black here, another slightly strange way to play, but that actually makes some sense, is to take on e4, and after bishop takes e4 to follow up with f5. I understand it's weakening the position a bit, but on the other hand, black trades off my strong bishop, and after the trade, the queen is quite active on b7 on this nice diagonal. Also, there is the possibility of playing g5. So surprisingly, black gets quite a lot of counterplay here. And of course, now I would really like to place a rook on e1, but I would like to play the rook ae1 here, let's say. That would have been much more harmonious. And again, the rook on a1 is a bit stupid. But okay. And my opponent played the most natural move. Actually, it's the move that I expected during the game. C takes d4, rook takes d4, knight c5. And the reason why it's so natural, according to me, is because this knight on a6 is the bad piece for black, and therefore it makes a lot of sense to bring it into the game. And now I have a choice what to do, but I think I made by far the most logical one. I played knight d6, threatening the queen, so black has to take, and after rook takes, I have won the bishop pair. Okay, black can trade, of course, but I have won at least one of the bishops. My rook is quite active, and I was actually thinking that I'm doing quite well. Or at least I was thinking that in 2 moves time, because black first took on g2, and here, actually, there was a strange way for black, which I saw during the game, because I felt during the game that after the move queen b7 check, which my opponent did, then I played f3, and this bishop on dark squares combined with this pawn on light squares gave me a lot of confidence, because they are combined to controlling all of the important squares, particularly the e4 one, but also later maybe the bishop goes to e3, and the bishop on dark squares, the pawn on light squares, and it's very hard for black to get active.
I just want to say that it's amazing. It's amazing how these, I think, grandmasters, what a great memory they have, because now he shows us the game that was played 1 year ago, but he also showed us some games played 10 years ago, and he still remember what he was thinking about. But work is unrelenting, and I have to go to it. Pawn Match Destroyer, thank you for watching, and yes, have a good day at work. Don't get frozen outside, please. Oh my god, -26. They aren't humans. They have such great memory. For example, I played Olympiad. I played in the Olympiad, right? I participated in the Olympiad in September, and I analyzed some of my games right after the same day, on the same day. So you remember I had my streams, right, the same day, and I was explaining some things. I was showing you my games and sharing my thoughts. Some games I didn't stream, and I did that only when I got back home, and after a couple of weeks I already couldn't remember what I was thinking about, what move I was planning to play, but they can remember the games they played 10 years ago.
So I felt now that I'm doing that I'm in control. But black doesn't have to play queen b7 check, and I felt during the game that this is a moment for black to really try to think deeply about the position, and if there, let's put it like this: if nothing special happens and I'm able to play f3, then I will be better as white. I will have the bishop against the knight, I will have slightly better structure, more active pieces, d-file, and so on. So black really has to act quickly, and this is, to me, felt strongly like the moment to try to do something. And when calculating during the game, I actually found one way. I didn't, of course, see all the details and so on, but my intuition actually led me in the direction, in the right direction, let's say. So I thought black has to play something like knight to e4, and the idea is to hit the rook, and then later on try to play f6, e5, kick these pieces away, and try to get counterplay. As white, I was actually. Okay, first I was, of course, intending to take on b6. My opponent, I asked him after the game, if he considered knight e4, and he said, yes, but you take on b6 and I have lost a pawn. What do I have to show for it? But the point was actually this surprising move, queen c7. And this actually makes things very complicated. Because now the rook is hanging, but if the rook moves to c6, then queen b7. And this diagonal is a bit of a problem. And I cannot really move the rook, it has no squares, and also black is threatening f6. I actually thought during the game that I would play f3, hitting the knight. The knight cannot move because then the c5 knight is hanging. Now it gets complicated. f6, f takes e4, f takes e5. This is all forced. The rook is still hanging, so the only move is to take. And black takes on f4. And I was calculating this during the game. I thought now I still have an extra pawn, so I should have pretty decent chances. Black has some play against my king, yes, but it should be solid enough. But the more I look at it also afterwards, I just believe that black has excellent play for the pawn, and I wouldn't be too happy with white's position. So instead of rook c6, it was also possible to play rook b5, but then I was afraid of the move g5, and suddenly these two pieces are hanging. Like if the bishop moves, then the knight is hanging, and if the bishop doesn't move, then black takes it. So yeah, this would have been a very deep pawn sacrifice from black. Showed excellent level. Even here, it's not so clear because I can counter sacrifice with rook e1. Takes on f4, takes on e4, and well, I'm giving back the exchange, but I have one pawn and I have very active pieces, so it's still probably quite pleasant for white. But it's I think still very instructive for black to try to get activity at any cost before it's too late. So check, f3, rook ac8 was played, and it's a little bit similar to the check on b7, that it looks natural, it looks logical, but it's actually not going deep enough into the position, not understanding deep enough what it's all about. Because black needs counterplay, and black needs counterplay fast. Here I stepped away from the c-file, knight e8, was played, rook d2, and again, black really should try to get something going. f6 was necessary, I think, by this point, knight d3, e5. I thought I would play bishop e3, and I have the better structure. I have a nice square on d5, I have the d file on d5, and then I have the file, can double up, and so on. And all this is true, but at least there is some sort of counterplay for black, especially after the move e4. So black, even if it's bad, it's like for good or worse, you have to try it. Instead, knight f6 was played, but then after rook a d8, I have